When Set 10 was released to the public, everyone noticed fairly quick that Spear of Shojin is amazing and blue buff is utter trash. This item did receive a lot of changes. For example, it now has a lot less starting mana, and you don't gain any bonus mana anymore after a takedown. Instead, you will receive a 15% damage amplifier for 8 seconds. You could make the argument that the damage amplifier doesn't feel that impactful and you'd rather have the old blue buff back. But what if I tell you that judging the current blue buff is completely pointless because something is terribly wrong with this item? It all started when I was investigating Karthus with Guardbreaker. After learning about the interaction, I also checked out blue buff. I was looking for two interactions specifically. Could Karthus amplify his backline damage if he kills a unit in the front? And is it possible to increase the damage amplifier in a multi-kill? This video is not going to be about Karthus. After checking out some fights, I was a bit stumped. The numbers didn't make any sense. I swapped my setup to something as simple as possible, so I rolled for an any 3-star, gave her blue buff and took a note each time she dealt damage. The result of this experiment is unbelievable. We will take a look at 3 different fights to fully understand the madness that is about to unfold. In the first fight, we're up against Yasuo, Garen, Echo, Jinx and Senna. I will usually click on the target when the damage happens, so you can see the MR values if you want to calculate the damage reduction yourself. In this fight, Annie deals 616 damage with her main spell and 357 with her secondary after casting 4 times. Yasuo is the first target, he gets hit by 394 damage and dies. This should now give Annie a 15% amplifier for 8 seconds. Garen is hit for exactly 400 magic damage. He has 77 MR, so if we increase the expected 348 damage by 15%, then we reach 400. So far, everything is working as intended. The third target is Echo, who has 72 MR. The expected damage with the blue buff amplifier is 411, but instead we see 358, which means the damage is not amplified anymore. This brings us to the first question. Does this mean that blue buff simply can't refresh itself and 8 seconds have passed since the Yasuo died? We continue the fight with Jinx, who gets hit for 470, and Senna takes a secondary hit from Annie for 262. The damage on Jinx and Senna was also not amplified. This means in our current fight, the only unit that received more damage was Garen. After Garen died, the damage amplifier was disabled for the rest of the fight. This is not a case of the 8 seconds running out or the blue buff turning off and on again. This can be proven in the next fights. We still have Annie, but this time she also has a Shojin from Super Fan. This increases her damage to 726 on her main target and 421 on her secondary target. We start with a cast on Evelynn, who is hit for 537, who then proceeds to die to auto attacks. Lilia has a solid tank setup with 115 MR, so she only takes 388 damage. The expected damage is 337, which means the blue buff right now is working at increasing the damage by 15%. The next cast also goes on Lilia, but she barely survives the cast and dies shortly after. After Lilia is taken down, Annie swaps her target to Amumu, who is hit for 538 damage. This is interesting because this time the 8-second timer for blue buff ran out just before Lilia died. So the bug didn't happen, and for the next 8 seconds her damage was amplified again. After Amumu is taken out, we can see a double cast with Seraphine as the main target and Kai'Sa as the secondary target. Seraphine takes 580 damage while Kai'Sa takes 350, which means the bonus damage is gone. In the last fight, we can see more units dying within a short amount of time. The first target is Echo and he gets hit for 378. He dies when the timer at the top is currently standing at 21 seconds. This means the damage amp is supposed to be active until the timer hits around 13 seconds. The enemy Neeko is taken out next and Annie starts pumping out fireballs. Lilia is hit for 422 damage and Cannon for 269, while the timer is still at 14 seconds. These numbers only make sense if blue buff did not increase Annie's damage. This is followed by Karthus getting hit for 288, Cannon for 465 and Corki for 321. None of these numbers are amplified. Other fights and other units gave me the same results. So to summarize, if your blue buff holder kills a unit while the damage amplifier is active, the effect is disabled until the fight is over. The expected result should be that the damage buff is renewed. At least this is the one that would make the most sense. This bug is very likely one of the reasons why blue buff feels so miserable to play compared to Shojin. But at least now we have a solid reason for never building this item until it gets fixed. If you like these types of videos, why not subscribe and support this channel? I hope you learned something and see you next time.